I mean, my simple answer to that was, how are hospitals functioning way before there were mobile phones? We managed as a society, as a civilization, humans managed to function perfectly well without mobile phones. Having said that, I'm not taking away from the fact that they have increasingly become a part of our everyday life, and it's extremely difficult, almost impossible if I may say, to isolate our lives from mobile telephony. But to your question about the other side of the argument that maybe there's no risk involved, I really believe, as a policy maker and as an individual, I prefer to err on the side of caution, and I think that's what each and every person should do. People keep bringing up the analogy of smoking, and it's such an important analogy, because just like if you asked someone who was a smoker in the mid-60s, or you tested their body, they probably wouldn't have shown any alarming signs on their body, but 30, 40 years down the line, they had some dormant cancer or tumor developing, and that led to a heart ailment or something else. So I really believe, my gut instinct clearly tells me that mobile phone usage in excess, being close to these transmission towers, is dangerous. But I'm not God, I'm not a scientist. I do believe that we have to have credible scientific evidence that suggests the same thing. And to the point that Mr. Srivastava and others are making, I think as a policy maker, I think municipalities, state governments, once we have this credible research before our nation, I don't think we should let the onus rest on the societies to really take a decision, because societies have compulsions to make money, landlords have compulsions to sell a plot of land to a cellular company to make money. I think you have to have stringent legislation that ensures that these homeowners, building societies are not given 1% of flexibility to move around in terms of setting up a base transmission tower. There should be very stringent guidelines that actually ensure that if you are within this proximity to vulnerable sections, to hospitals, etc., like you mentioned, you can't have that if the electromagnetic radiation is very high. Having said that, Rahul, I must bring in another point into this debate, and that is, as much as we're giving attention to EMR emitted from transmission towers, we have to at the same time look at mobile phones as well. Like the gentleman pointed out, that the manual clearly says that it must be 1.5 centimeters away from an ear. That's not adequately publicized by mobile companies. One of the things I wrote to the telecom minister and to the health minister of India was that you have to push and put pressure on these mobile phone companies to penalize them, even the manufacturers, to make these guidelines very large, very visible, because that is what will spread awareness. So I think it's a cycle of which awareness at first will bring pressure on policy makers, on societies, and will create effective legislation and make sure it's monitored.
Okay, let me get in Anil Kumar. He's been listening in very intently. He's the editor of Telecom Live. He deals directly and on a daily basis with these mobile companies. The analogy that's been drawn, Mr. Kumar, is that the mobile companies are currently responding in the same fashion that the cigarette and the tobacco companies did way back in the 60s and the 70s. They're debunking the very existence of the problems caused by EMR, saying that the survey is very limited. There might be radiation, but there's no proven linkage with health problems. Mr. Dastur is a case study. They're saying that people like him are the exception. Could have happened for a whole host of other reasons. EMR doesn't necessarily need to be that reason. How do you assess the mood within the telecom industry now that these surveys are coming out, Mr. Kumar?
The issue is very serious. The kind of now we have 50 crore users of mobile in the country. Worldwide we have 500 crore users. Suddenly, if after 10 years you establish a direct linkage between overuse of mobile with the cancer, then what you will do? Can you undo everything? You cannot. So whatever so-called safe level exposures to radiation has been defined, that was also defined in 1992, way back in 1992. And whatever studies the operators are saying at this moment is all they are referring to pre-2003 era. 2003 era, that also there were not many surveys or studies conducted, and that too they were conducted only on those people who use the telephone only for 2-3 years. So if you compare the situation with the asbestos, the studies were carried out only on those people who were exposed to asbestos for 10 to 15 years. Then only proper studies are available, proper results are available. So the studies which the operators are referring are just pre-2003. After that, whatever studies have been carried out, they are more or less consistent, and they all point out to that the overexposures to adult is harmful, and it is 2 times more harmful to children. So these kind of things are not being addressed. Parents are not being told that overexposure of radiation to the children will be harmful.
Okay, in fact, before Headlines Today took up this issue, there was very limited awareness. People had heard that maybe mobile phones are dangerous, but just how dangerous electromagnetic radiation is, how these stars above your heads, at your residence, at your office, are actually dangerous, and what the levels of radiation are is coming out only now. We've done Delhi and Mumbai, we'll do other cities over the next few weeks, but I want to go across now, live to the CST. This is the one zone in Mumbai where lakhs of Mumbaikars come. Milind Deora is watching live, and so many concerned people in Mumbai. Abhishek Chaudhary, our correspondent, is standing by. He's got somebody from Cogent, the company that's done this survey, standing by with him. Abhishek, for all our viewers, explain how this survey happens and give us a live demonstration of the levels of electromagnetic radiation at the CST in Mumbai, because that's the one spot everyone knows about. Abhishek.